everybody, and welcome back to the Star Wars Expanded Universe, never done by Disney or Lucasfilm, whichever way you slice it. Legends. Today, we continue the Filoniverse. But what I have for you today is, first off, we're going to skip Season 3, Episode 18 to 22, because these have stuff that is just plain stupid and dumb, and then also contradictory stuff. There's a whole area where they get frozen in carbonite, which I think is really unnecessary and kind of makes it be like, well, why didn't Darth Vader recognize that Han might survive this? Another thing is that Tarkin shows up. He looks a bit young for how old he's probably supposed to be. I mean, it's cool seeing him, but it's a problem. And the biggest issue with this whole thing is that Evan Peel dies here in those episodes, even though we know that he doesn't die till Coruscant Nights in the Legends canon. Now, that these episodes will be fine if you were following the Disney canon, because there's no other stories really focused on Evan Peel. So you could easily fit that into the timeline, which is why TCW works much better with Disney canon. However, we are trying to, since this did come out before the Disney buyout, Filoni just said F you to every single author and writer within the Star Wars Expanded Universe because he couldn't play ball and play with the team. He had to make sure he was top dog. So, because he so flagrantly disregarded things that mattered to so many people, we're going to disregard his stuff. So, Season 3, Episodes 18 and 22, we are skipping. We're also skipping Seasons 4, Episode 1 to 6, because I just think some of those episodes are really stupid and unnecessary, like the ones with Mon Calamari. It adds nothing to the plot, nothing of relevance, nothing of substance. It's just there, so I'm going to skip it. However, actually getting into some stuff, we have TCW Season 4, Episodes 7 through 10. The Embara Arc. I have to say, this is probably the best arc in the entirety of the Clone Wars. So with this, we have all these clones on a mission on Embara. Anakin's there for the first episode, but he gets called back home, of course, by Palpatine. And they get a new Jedi commander, Krell. And Krell just seems to be a blatant bigot throughout the entire 4-episode arc. And, we see the harshness of war. Like, this is a kid's show, but this is probably as dark as it can get for kids, without being the actual Republic comics that we've seen. And so it's pretty brutal and hard to watch these clones suffer as, this Jedi uses them as cannon fodder. And like I said, it's acted really well. The atmosphere is really great. Everything about these 4 episodes is phenomenal. However, it is ruined by the very end because we find out that Krell is actually another dark acolyte, or he wants to become one for Dooku. He has seen the error of the Jedi and wants to join Dooku as basically a new Asajj Ventress. He wants to take her place and be the new Padawan to Dooku. So he's trying to help the Republic lose this battle. And I hated that. It ruined all the nuance of the episode. The episode would have been so much better if he was not a traitor. If he was not evil. In the normal sense of, oh, he's actually for the other side. No wonder he's such a jerk. This 4 episodes would have been so much better if it had been more nuanced. Which is why it comes to another cool Legends thing that I think could have made these 4 episodes even greater than what we saw. And I talked about this on one of Matt Wilkins' live streams. I think it was his 12 Days of Christmas. But I thought it'd be really interesting. In the Force Unleashed video game, there is a Jedi called Ram Koda, one of the few to survive the Purge. And Starkiller is supposed to stop him. However, they end up, through a whole bunch of shenanigans, ends up becoming Galen Merrick, Starkiller's Jedi master, even though he had, Vader for all those years. Now think about this. a similar arc to this, but it's Ram Koda instead of Krell. Ram Koda, who we know did not use clones because he didn't trust them. He used his own militia force instead. What if, for this one occasion during the Clone Wars, he was forced, maybe the many under his command at that current time had all perished, and the Republic sent in reinforcements, sent in the clones. And in order to complete this mission, he had to work with them for this particular mission, and this particular mission only. He had no other choice. Now, you can have more of that nuance, because Ram Koda is not a bad guy, and he has justifiable grievances with the clone army. But you can have this more nuanced gray dynamic where you have Rex and all these clones, and you have Ram, who is bigoted, but can maybe see the kindness, the humanness within the clones while being wary of them because he senses something will happen with these clones that he can't trust. And so can maybe get a better appreciation for them, but will be unwilling to use them from that point further. You could have a really interesting 4-episode arc. Of course, that's not what we got. But I thought that'd be a really interesting idea. It could also flesh out a character that really only appears in the video games. But I think Krell is an interesting character. It just, his character is ruined to me because he turns out to just be a stereotypical bad guy. I would rather have him had been the bigoted Jedi. That being said, I still think this is the best arc of the entire Clone Wars. It kept me engaged from start to finish. No issues. Up next, we have Season 4, Episodes 11 to 13. This is the Slave Arc. Now, there was also a comic book where basically the same plot kind of happened. And I just decided, well, I guess I would rather watch it than read about it. So I went with this arc instead of reading it in the comics. The TCW tie-in comics. But there, if you want, it's not inherently contradictory, but if you want basically the same adventure, slightly different, in comic book form, you could do that, but it seems a bit redundant to me, so I just watched this. Of course, we get to see Anakin's anger at the slavers because he himself was a slave. We get to see a whole lot happen with the slavers. But Dooku shows up in this episode. However, he does pretty much just annihilate Anakin, which I preferred because they didn't really have a fight in this episode, which was much better than previous stuff that we've seen. So I appreciated that. Don't have too much else to say. Season 4, Episode 14, Death Watch, basically. So Ahsoka and the guy from the Heroes on Both Sides episode, they're hanging out. He realizes that his mother did not die by the Jedi or the Republic, that it was Dooku who had tricked him. And so he goes to Death Watch to help him kill Dooku. Of course, Death Watch is stereotypically evil, and so they gotta get away. But at the end, he cannot join the Republic because the Republic is still corrupt, but he can't go back to Separatist either, so now he's just at a standstill. Then we are skipping Season 4, Episodes 15 to 20. At least aspects. This gets really hard. It's basically the whole Obi-Wan becomes a bounty hunter story arc. That's cool. Like, the whole concept is cool, but there's too many contradictory things. Like, Boba Fett is friends with Bosk, which he just absolutely wouldn't be, and stuff. And there's just a lot of things, little things like that, that's just like a big problem. Sorry if you heard that. What I would prefer, I guess it's just Imperial propaganda. Quinlan Voss's whole story is pretty on the down low. Like, only a few Jedi knew about it. So with the limited information that the Empire has, they make a holodrama featuring Obi-Wan instead, because he's a more famous Jedi, and because they don't know a lot about a lot of the bounty hunters, because of course their whole life is secretive, they kind of just, mix and match things to see whatever can work to make an interesting story. An interesting story it is, but didn't actually happen in my mind. Um, then we get to season 4, episodes 21 and 22. Maul, he returns. Now I'm really conflicted, because on the one hand, I think it's really annoying and stupid to bring back Maul from the dead. However, the performance by Sam Witwer is so good. All the dialogue for Darth Maul is so good. Every moment that he's on screen is so good. And yet I hate the premise to begin with that he's even alive. So I'm very conflicted on this whole arc. However, episodes 18, 20, or like 19 to 20, something like that, Ventress goes on an adventure with Boba. Now, that's also contradictory to future stuff I'll read, so I'm just going to ignore that. However, what cannot be taken away, at least at the moment, is that if you're putting TCW in, for a time at least, Ventress became a bounty hunter herself, and she's going to help Obi-Wan during this crisis with Darth Maul. Now, of course, in the comics, at some point, she's going to lose her memory, and she's going to be in another story arc, which I haven't read yet. I would prefer to just not have her in it at all, but you can't avoid her being in this episode, so I'm just going to accept it. And so that's a whole thing. But overall, I mean, very conflicting. I don't like the premise. However, everything they do with it is so splendid that I can't exactly hate it. And so those are my thoughts on all the Clone Wars episodes that I've reviewed so far. The last thing I'll talk about is the comic book 4-issue series Darth Maul Death Sentence, which is a tie-in to the show. Happens before season 5, but after season 4. And we just get to see Darth Maul be really awesome. This is the most we've probably ever really heard him talk. He goes to his planet, recruits some natives, lets them suffer and die, and just a whole lot of stuff. But it is a lot of fun. If you're a fan of TCW, you will enjoy these comics. If you don't enjoy TCW, you will despise these comics. If you're somewhere in the middle like me, I think you will overall enjoy the comics, especially if you enjoy Darth Maul, where you're like, I hate that you're alive, but I love it at the same time. Like, it's just conflicting emotions. But yeah, overall, it was a really fun read, though, I have to say. I can't lie to you. I had a good time reading it. So that is pretty much it, guys. Up next, I have the MedStar duology, and then we'll head back to the Clone Wars and finish off Filoniverse forever. Until then, guys, may the Force be with you.